Many English learners study for years, but still feel stuck when they try to speak. They know words, they understand videos, yet their voice stays silent. What if the real secret to speaking English confidently is not more study, but a simple daily practice most learners ignore? In this video, you will discover that hidden habit and how it can slowly transform your English confidence. Chapter 1: The Practice. Hidden in plain sight. Many English learners spend months and even years studying the language. They open books, they watch lessons, they write new vocabulary again and again. They listen carefully, and they understand many things. But when the moment comes to speak, something strange happens. The mind becomes quiet. The mouth stops. The words do not come out. It feels like the knowledge is locked somewhere inside the brain, but the key to open it is missing. If this has ever happened to you, you are not alone. Thousands of English learners around the world experience the same feeling every day. Picture a learner sitting at home in the evening. The phone is in their hand. A YouTube video is playing. The teacher in the video speaks slowly and clearly. The learner understands many words. Sometimes they even say, "Yes, I understand this." They pause the video and write new vocabulary in a notebook. The page slowly fills with new words, beautiful words, useful words. But something important is still missing. The learner closes the notebook, and the room becomes quiet again. There was learning, there was listening, but there was no real speaking. This moment feels very familiar to many people who want to improve their English. They study hard, they watch videos every day, they read stories, they learn grammar rules, they even take online courses. But when someone suddenly asks them a simple question in English, their heart begins to beat faster. Their mind searches for words. Silence appears. The learner feels nervous and unsure. Inside their head, they know the answer, but the voice refuses to come out. This situation can feel very frustrating. Many learners begin to think that maybe English is simply too difficult for them. Some people believe they need more vocabulary. Others think they must memorize more grammar rules. Some learners even believe they are not talented enough to speak another language. These thoughts slowly reduce their confidence. The dream of speaking English begins to feel far away. But here is the truth that many learners do not realize. The problem is usually not intelligence. It is not memory. It is not even grammar. The real problem is something much simpler. Many learners spend most of their time studying English, but very little time actually using it. They collect knowledge, but they do not train their voice. They understand English, but they do not give their mouth the chance to practice speaking. Learning a language is very similar to learning a sport. Imagine someone who watches hundreds of football matches, but never touches a ball. They may understand the game very well. They may know every rule and every strategy. But if they suddenly walk onto the field and try to play, their body will feel confused. Their movements will be slow. Their confidence will be weak. Watching the game is helpful, but playing the game is what creates real skill. English works in the same way. Listening and reading are important. They help the brain understand the language. But speaking is what trains the voice and builds confidence. Without using English actively, the brain never becomes comfortable producing sentences naturally. This is why many learners feel trapped between two worlds. In one world, they understand English very well when they listen. In the other world, they feel completely silent when they try to speak. It is like standing at a door but not knowing how to open it. At this point, something very interesting begins to happen in the mind of the viewer. Many people watching this video suddenly start thinking about their own learning journey. They remember the hours spent watching lessons. They remember the vocabulary lists and the grammar exercises. They begin asking themselves an honest question: have I been studying English, or have I truly been practicing it? This question is powerful because it changes how we look at language learning. Studying gives us knowledge. Practice gives us ability. Both are important, but practice is what transforms knowledge into real speaking confidence. And here is the surprising part. The most powerful speaking practice does not always happen in a classroom. It does not require expensive courses or complicated exercises. In fact, one of the most effective methods is something incredibly simple that many learners ignore every day. When people discover this small habit, something begins to change. English slowly moves from the notebook into real life. The language stops being something distant and academic. It becomes something alive, something personal, something that belongs to the learner. Right now, curiosity naturally begins to grow. Many viewers start wondering what this hidden practice could be. What simple habit helps confident speakers improve without even realizing it? In the next chapter, we will uncover that secret. It is a small daily action that many fluent speakers use naturally, yet most learners never try. And once you understand it, your English practice may never look the same again. Chapter 2: The Power of Speaking to Yourself. One of the most powerful English learning methods is also one of the most ignored. It does not require a teacher. It does not require a classroom. It does not even require another person. In fact, this method works best when you are completely alone. The method is simple, almost surprisingly simple. It is speaking to yourself in English. Many learners spend years searching for complicated techniques to improve their speaking. They download apps, buy books, and watch many lessons. But they often overlook this small habit that can slowly transform the way their brain uses English. Imagine a learner standing in the kitchen in the morning. The room is quiet. Sunlight enters through the window. The learner is preparing breakfast. Normally, this moment would pass in silence. But today, something different happens. The learner begins to speak softly in English. Simple sentences, very simple sentences. The learner says, "I am making tea. The water is hot. I need a cup. Now I am putting sugar in the tea." The sentences are not perfect. The grammar may not always be correct, but something important is happening. The learner is using English in real life. Later that day, the learner goes for a walk. The street is busy and people are moving around. Again, the learner quietly speaks in English. "I am walking to the store. The weather is warm today. I see a red car. That man is riding a bicycle." These sentences are small, but they are alive. The learner is not memorizing words from a page. The learner is using English to describe the world around them. In the evening, the learner is cleaning the room. The same habit continues. "Now I am cleaning the table. This room is messy. I need to organize my books." The learner speaks slowly. Sometimes there are pauses. Sometimes the learner forgets a word and replaces it with another simple idea. But with each sentence, the brain becomes more comfortable producing English. At the beginning, this practice can feel very strange. Many learners feel a little embarrassed speaking alone. Some people even laugh at themselves the first time they try it. They may think, "Why am I talking to myself like this?" It feels unusual because most of us are not used to speaking when nobody is listening. But this feeling slowly disappears with time. What first feels strange soon begins to feel natural. Many viewers watching this moment recognize this hesitation. They imagine themselves trying to speak English alone in their room. A small voice in their mind may say, "This looks a little silly," but another voice begins to say something different. "What if this actually works? What if this small habit could help my English grow?" The truth is that this method is powerful because it changes how the brain practices language. When learners only listen or read, the brain becomes very good at understanding English. But speaking is a different skill. Speaking requires the brain to quickly choose words and create sentences in real time. Without practice, this ability stays weak. Self-talk gives the brain exactly the practice it needs. Every time a learner describes an action or thought, in English. The brain creates a direct connection between ideas and English words. Slowly, the learner stops translating from their native language. Instead, thoughts begin to appear directly in English. This process may feel slow at first, but over time it becomes easier and more natural. Something interesting also happens emotionally. As learners begin speaking to themselves every day, their fear of speaking slowly becomes smaller. The voice becomes more familiar with English sounds. Sentences start to flow with less effort. Confidence grows quietly, one simple sentence at a time. At this point, many viewers begin imagining their own daily life. They picture themselves waking up in the morning and describing their routine in English. They imagine walking outside and talking about the things they see. They imagine explaining their thoughts while cooking dinner or cleaning the house. Suddenly, English practice does not look like a difficult study session anymore. It looks like something that can happen naturally throughout the day. And this is where curiosity grows stronger. Viewers begin wondering how such a simple habit can have such a big effect. How can talking to yourself actually help the brain become more fluent in English? The answer lies inside the way our brains process language. Speaking to yourself does much more than create sentences. It changes how the brain connects ideas, words, and emotions. It slowly trains the mind to think directly in English. In the next chapter, we will explore why this simple habit has such a powerful effect on the brain and how it helps learners break one of the biggest barriers in language learning. Chapter 3: Breaking the Translation Habit. One of the biggest hidden barriers in learning English is something many learners do every day without even realizing it. It feels natural, it feels logical. In fact, it feels like the correct way to speak. But this habit quietly slows down your English speaking ability. That habit is translating every sentence from your native language into English before you speak. Many learners believe that this is the normal process of speaking a new language. They think in their own language first, then search for English words to express the idea. But this small step inside the brain creates a delay that makes speaking feel difficult and stressful. Imagine a learner standing in front of someone who asks a simple question in English. Maybe the question is very easy. Something like, "What did you do today?" Inside the learner's mind, the answer already exists. The learner knows exactly what they want to say. But the moment they try to speak, the brain begins a complicated journey. First, the idea appears in the native language. Then the brain begins searching for English words that match that idea. The learner begins translating piece by piece, word after word, slowly building a sentence in their mind before speaking it. During this moment, the conversation becomes quiet. The other person waits. The learner feels pressure growing. The mind is busy translating, but the mouth stays silent. Sometimes, the learner finds the right words. Sometimes, they forget a word and panic for a moment. Sometimes, they give a very short answer because the full sentence feels too difficult to translate quickly. This situation feels very familiar to many English learners. It creates that uncomfortable pause during conversations. That moment when the learner knows what they want to say but cannot say it quickly enough. The silence feels heavy. The learner may even feel embarrassed. Some people start believing they are not good at speaking English. But the real problem is not their intelligence or their vocabulary. The real problem is the translation habit. Translation forces the brain to work twice for every sentence. First, it must create the thought in one language. Then it must rebuild the same idea in another language. This process is slow and tiring for the brain. That is why conversations become stressful. Speaking begins to feel like solving a puzzle instead of expressing a simple idea. But something powerful begins to happen when learners start using English more directly in their daily life. When a learner practices speaking small sentences every day, especially through self-talk, the brain slowly begins forming direct connections between ideas and English words. Instead of thinking in one language and translating, the learner starts thinking in English from the beginning. Imagine the same situation again. Someone asks the learner, "What did you do today?" This time something different happens. The learner's brain quickly produces a simple answer in English. "I worked today. I studied English. I watched a movie." The sentence is not perfect. It may be simple, but it comes out quickly and naturally because the brain did not stop to translate. This change feels like a breakthrough moment for many learners. Suddenly, speaking feels lighter, sentences appear more easily, conversations move more smoothly. The learner begins to feel that English is not just something they study, it is something they can use. This realization often surprises people. For years they believed their biggest problem was grammar or vocabulary. But when they begin to observe their thinking process carefully, they discover the real challenge was translation. The brain was always trying to move ideas from one language to another instead of simply expressing them directly. At this point, viewers watching this lesson begin reflecting on their own experience. They start remembering conversations where they paused for a long time searching for words. They remember moments when their mind was busy translating while the conversation moved forward without them. Many viewers quietly ask themselves an important question: how often do I translate before speaking English? This reflection is powerful because it opens the door to a new way of learning. Once learners understand that translation is slowing them down, they can begin training their brain to think differently. They can start creating direct connections between ideas and English words. And the beautiful thing is that this change does not require complicated exercises. It begins with small daily speaking habits, simple sentences about daily life, describing actions, thoughts, and surroundings in English. Each small sentence slowly teaches the brain to operate directly in the language. When this process continues day after day, something amazing happens. English begins to appear naturally in the learner's thoughts. The language becomes faster. The mind becomes calmer. Speaking begins to feel less like a difficult task and more like a natural form of communication. Now that we understand how translation can slow down speaking, the next step becomes clear. The question is no longer why speaking feels difficult. The question becomes how we can train our brain to think directly in English. In the next chapter, we will explore simple and practical ways to turn everyday moments into powerful English thinking practice. These small habits will help your brain move beyond translation and begin living inside the language. Chapter 4: Turning Daily Life into English Practice. Many learners believe that practicing English requires special conditions. They imagine a classroom, a teacher, or a conversation partner sitting across from them. Because of this belief, many people feel stuck when they are alone. They wait for the perfect moment to practice. They wait for a lesson, a class, or a conversation opportunity. But the truth is much more encouraging than that. The most powerful English practice can happen during the normal moments of everyday life. In fact, every small moment of your day can become an opportunity to practice speaking English. Imagine a learner sitting quietly in their room. The room is simple. There is a table, a chair, a phone, and a window. In the past, this learner would simply sit silently while studying vocabulary from a book. But now, something different begins to happen. The learner looks around the room and starts naming the objects in English. This is a table. That is my chair. My phone is on the table. The window is open. The room is bright today. These sentences are small and simple, but they are alive. The learner is no longer just memorizing words. The learner is using English to describe the real world. Later, the learner walks outside. The weather is warm and the sky is clear. Instead of staying silent, the learner begins speaking again. The weather is nice today. The sky is blue. I can feel the wind. People are walking on the street. A bus is coming. These sentences are not part of a textbook lesson. They are natural observations about the environment. The learner is slowly training the brain to connect real-life experiences with English language. During lunchtime, the learner continues this habit. The learner looks at the food on the table and begins describing it in English. I am eating rice. This food smells good. I am hungry today. The food is hot. After lunch, I will work. Again, the sentences are simple, but the brain is practicing something extremely valuable. It is learning how to express thoughts in English naturally. Later in the evening, the learner begins planning the next day. The learner speaks quietly to themselves again. Tomorrow I will wake up early. I will study English. I will call my friend. I will go to the store. These sentences may feel small, but they are powerful exercises. They teach the brain how to think about future plans in English. At this moment, many viewers watching this lesson begin to feel something encouraging. They realize that English practice does not need to be complicated. It does not require expensive courses or long study sessions. It does not even require another person. The learner in this story is practicing English simply by living their normal day. This realization can change the entire way people think about language learning. Instead of waiting for special study time, English becomes something that can happen anywhere, while cooking, while walking, while cleaning, while driving. Every small moment becomes an opportunity to speak a few sentences. And here is an important insight that many learners do not expect. Small moments of speaking repeated many times during the day are often more powerful than one long study session. When learners speak English regularly throughout the day, the brain stays connected to the language. The mind becomes more comfortable using English naturally. Think about how children learn their first language. They do not sit in long study sessions. Instead, they hear and use language throughout the entire day. Small conversations, small observations, small questions. These repeated moments slowly build fluency over time. The same principle works for English learners. When the language becomes part of daily life, it stops feeling like a difficult subject and begins to feel like a natural tool for expressing thoughts. At this point, viewers begin imagining their own daily routines. They think about waking up in the morning. They think about walking to work, preparing meals, or relaxing in the evening. Suddenly, they begin noticing how many small moments exist in their day. Moments when they could say one or two sentences in English. They imagine looking around their room and describing what they see. They imagine explaining what they are doing while cooking dinner. They imagine talking about the weather while walking outside. Each of these moments becomes a tiny English lesson created by their own life. This idea creates motivation because it removes one of the biggest obstacles in language learning. The excuse that there is no time to practice begins to disappear. English practice no longer depends on special conditions. It simply becomes part of living. And something interesting happens when learners begin practicing this way. Their confidence slowly starts to grow. The brain becomes more familiar with forming sentences. Speaking begins to feel easier. The fear of making mistakes becomes smaller. But there is another powerful element that strengthens this process even more. It is something simple that the brain loves: something that transforms small daily sentences into strong speaking ability. In the next chapter, we will explore how repetition plays a crucial role in building confidence and making English speaking feel natural and automatic. Chapter 5: The Confidence That Comes from Repetition. Many people believe that confidence appears suddenly. They imagine a magical moment when one day they wake up and suddenly speak English perfectly. But real confidence does not appear in a single moment. It grows slowly through repetition. It grows when the same small actions are practiced again and again until the brain and the voice become comfortable. Repetition may look simple on the outside, but inside the brain it creates powerful changes that help language become natural. Imagine a learner who has started the small habit we talked about earlier. Every day the learner speaks simple English sentences during normal activities. The learner walks to the kitchen and says, "I am making breakfast. The coffee is hot. I am hungry this morning." Later the learner goes for a walk and quietly speaks again. "I am walking in the park. The weather is nice today. I see many people outside." These sentences may seem small and simple, but something very important is happening. The learner is repeating the same types of ideas every day. At first, these sentences may feel slow and uncomfortable. The learner may pause while searching for words. The pronunciation may feel uncertain. Sometimes the learner may even stop in the middle of a sentence because they are not sure how to finish it. This stage is completely normal. Every new skill begins with a little uncertainty. But the learner continues the habit day after day. The same kinds of sentences appear again and again. While cooking, the learner repeats similar ideas. "I am cutting vegetables. The food smells good. I need more salt." While cleaning the room, the learner repeats another group of familiar sentences. "I am cleaning the table. The room looks better now. I will finish soon." After some time, something interesting begins to happen. The sentences that once felt difficult start feeling easier. The brain no longer needs to search for every word. The mouth begins to move more smoothly. The learner notices that the same sentences appear naturally without too much effort. What once required concentration now feels automatic. This moment is powerful because it changes how the learner feels about speaking English. The learner begins to notice small victories. Simple sentences come faster. The voice sounds more relaxed. The fear of speaking slowly begins to fade. Confidence quietly grows through these repeated experiences. Many viewers watching this moment remember similar experiences from other parts of life. Perhaps they learned to ride a bicycle. At first, balancing felt impossible, but after practicing many times, the body slowly learned how to move naturally. Or maybe they learned to type on a keyboard. In the beginning, every letter required effort, but after repetition, the fingers moved without thinking. The same principle works for language learning. Fluency does not come from saying a sentence once. It comes from saying similar ideas many times until the brain and the mouth work together smoothly. Repetition builds familiarity. Familiarity builds comfort. And comfort builds confidence. When learners repeat simple English sentences every day, they train their brain to recognize patterns in the language. The brain becomes faster at forming sentences. The mouth becomes more comfortable producing English sounds. Over time, speaking begins to feel less like a difficult task and more like a natural habit. This realization gives many viewers a new sense of hope. Instead of believing that fluency requires perfect grammar or a huge vocabulary, they begin to understand that progress can come from small, repeated actions. Improvement suddenly feels possible because the method is simple and realistic. Viewers begin imagining their own daily sentences. They think about what they could repeat each day. Simple ideas such as describing their morning routine, talking about their work or studies, explaining what they are doing in the moment. These small sentences become the building blocks of confidence. They imagine waking up in the morning and saying, "I am getting ready for the day. I will study English today." They imagine walking outside and saying, "The weather is cool. I see many people on the street." These sentences may look simple, but repeating them regularly can slowly transform the way a learner speaks. Little by little, English begins to feel less foreign. The language becomes familiar, the voice becomes stronger, and the learner begins to trust their ability to express ideas in English. But repetition does more than improve speaking ability. Something deeper begins to change inside the learner. The person who once felt shy about speaking English slowly starts seeing themselves differently. The learner begins to feel like someone who actually uses English in daily life. In the next chapter, we will explore how this small daily habit begins to change a learner's identity, and how English slowly becomes a natural part of who they are. Chapter 6. The moment English starts feeling natural. There is a quiet moment in every language learner's journey that feels almost magical. It does not arrive with loud celebration. It does not come with a big announcement. It appears suddenly in a normal moment of life. A small moment that may last only a few seconds. But for the learner, that moment changes everything. It is the moment when English begins to feel natural. After days and weeks of small daily speaking habits, something begins to shift inside the brain. The learner has been describing daily actions, repeating simple sentences, and practicing speaking during normal activities. At first, everything felt slow and uncertain. The learner had to think carefully before every sentence. Words sometimes disappeared. Pauses often appeared. But the learner continued practicing, one simple sentence at a time. Then one ordinary day, something unexpected happens. The learner is talking with someone, or perhaps answering a simple question. The question is easy. Maybe someone asks, "What are you doing today?" In the past, this question would have created a pause. The learner's brain would start translating from the native language into English. But this time, something different happens. The learner answers immediately. "I am studying English today. I will practice speaking later." The sentence comes out quickly and smoothly. There is no long pause. There is no heavy translation process. The words appear almost automatically. For a moment, the learner may not even realize what just happened. But a few seconds later, the realization arrives. The learner spoke English naturally. Annoyed, this moment creates a feeling of quiet surprise. The learner thinks, "Wait, I answered that question without translating." The sentence simply appeared. It may be a small sentence, but it feels like a big victory. Suddenly, the learner understands that the daily practice is working. Many viewers watching this moment feel a strong emotional connection. They imagine experiencing the same moment in their own life, the moment when English stops feeling like a difficult school subject and begins feeling like a real language they can use. This experience often brings joy because it proves something important. Progress has been happening quietly in the background. Every small sentence spoken during daily practice has been training the brain. Every moment of describing daily life has been building connections between ideas and English words. Fluency rarely appears suddenly. It grows slowly like a plant. Each day of practice adds a small amount of growth. Most of the time, the learner cannot see the progress clearly. But one day, the learner notices a new leaf, a small sign that the plant has grown. The same process happens with language learning. Daily speaking habits slowly strengthen the brain's ability to produce English. The mind becomes faster. The voice becomes more relaxed. Sentences appear more easily. These small improvements combine until one day the learner suddenly notices a moment of natural speaking. For many learners, this realization creates a powerful sense of hope. They understand that fluency is not a mysterious talent that only a few people have. It is the result of consistent practice. It grows through repetition, patience, and simple daily habits. Viewers begin imagining their own future moment. They picture themselves answering a question in English without thinking too much. They imagine speaking with a friend or a stranger, and suddenly realizing that the words are coming naturally. That moment feels exciting because it represents progress and confidence. At the same time, this moment also brings a deeper understanding. The learner realizes that the journey is not about perfection. It is about comfort. Speaking English does not require perfect grammar or complex vocabulary. What matters most is the ability to express ideas naturally and confidently. And this realization changes how learners view their progress. Instead of chasing perfection, they begin focusing on consistency. They continue speaking small sentences each day. They continue describing daily life. Each simple moment adds another step toward fluency. But the story does not end here. That first natural speaking moment is only the beginning. The small habit that created this progress can continue shaping the learner's English ability for months and years. In the final chapter, we will discover how this simple secret practice can transform long-term language growth and turn English into a natural part of everyday life. Chapter 7. The Small Habit That Changes Everything. At the beginning of this journey, the learner was silent. The learner watched lessons, wrote vocabulary, and listened carefully to English conversations. Knowledge slowly grew, but speaking still felt difficult. The words were somewhere inside the mind, but they rarely came out. Every time a conversation appeared, nervousness appeared with it. The learner often felt stuck between understanding English and actually using it. But something small began to change the situation. Not a complicated method, not an expensive course, just a simple daily habit. The learner began speaking to themselves in English. At first, the sentences were small and uncertain. Sometimes they were incomplete. Sometimes the learner paused to search for words. But the learner continued the habit day after day. Slowly, English began appearing during ordinary moments of life. While cooking, the learner described the food and the actions happening in the kitchen. While walking outside, the learner spoke about the weather, the people on the street, and the sounds of the city. While planning the next day, the learner explained simple thoughts and plans in English. None of these moments looked dramatic. They were small, quiet moments of practice. Weeks passed and something interesting began to happen. The learner who once stayed silent now began speaking more freely. Thoughts started appearing directly in English. Simple sentences formed naturally without heavy effort. The learner began describing feelings, ideas, and daily plans in English without feeling nervous. One day, the learner noticed something surprising. English was no longer something that only existed in study time. It had become part of everyday thinking. While making breakfast, the learner thought about the day in English. While walking to the store, the learner observed the surroundings in English. The language had quietly entered daily life. This change feels powerful because it shows something important. The transformation did not happen because of one big moment. It happened because of many small moments repeated every day. Each simple sentence spoken during daily life slowly built speaking ability and confidence. Many viewers watching this moment begin to feel inspired. They realize that the method used in this story is not difficult or impossible. It does not require special talent or perfect grammar knowledge. It begins with a habit that anyone can start today. A few simple sentences spoken during daily life can slowly create a big change. Language learning often becomes difficult when people believe they must study for many hours every day. Some learners feel pressure to learn everything quickly. They search for intense methods and complicated strategies. But real fluency often grows in a different way. Consistency is more powerful than intensity. Speaking a few sentences every day can be more effective than studying for many hours once a week. Small daily habits keep the brain connected to the language. They slowly build confidence and familiarity. Imagine planting a seed in the ground. The plant does not grow in one single day. It grows little by little with regular care. Watering the plant every day allows it to become strong and healthy. Language learning works in the same way. Small daily actions create long-term growth. At this moment, the viewer begins thinking about their own life again. They imagine waking up tomorrow and speaking a few simple English sentences about their morning. They imagine describing their surroundings while walking outside. They imagine explaining their plans for the day in English. Suddenly, the path toward improvement feels clear and realistic. English practice no longer looks like a distant goal. It becomes a small habit that can begin today, right where the learner is. The learner in our story did not become confident by waiting for the perfect moment. The learner created progress through small daily speaking moments, and those moments slowly transformed silence into confidence. This realization leads naturally to one final message, a message that reminds every viewer that their English journey does not need to start tomorrow, next week, or next year. It can start right now with one simple sentence spoken aloud. Your English grows every time you use it. Start speaking to yourself today, even with simple sentences. Share your experience in the comments and keep practicing. Your confident English voice is closer than you think.